You are listening to the Project Management Podcast. We bring project management topics to beginners and experts. Find us on the web at pmpodcast.blogspot.com or send your emails to pmpodcast@gmail.com. Hello and welcome to show number 11. I am Cornelius Fichtner. This is the Project Management Podcast for the 12th of November 2005, and today we are going to be looking at an overview of project management methodologies. To start out the show, as every week, here are a few announcements and just things I want to get off my chest. First of all, reader feedback. Many of you have been writing to me over the past few weeks and making suggestions towards possible topics that I could talk about here. Theory of constraints, critical chain, how to balance several large projects simultaneously, you name it. I can promise you that I am going to try and get all of your requests into the show in due time. But please remember that project management is a very vast field, and there's a lot that I can cover here and a lot that I want to cover. So I will not be able to get to your subject within the next 1 to 2 weeks. Give me some time and I'm sure that we are going to cover here the topic that interests you. I also wanted to mention again that this is not a PMP exam preparation podcast. If you are listening to this podcast and you are currently studying for the PMP exam and you're trying to pass the PMP exam, please don't listen to this show and hope to learn something that will help you to pass. You see, in order to pass the exam, I really suggest that you attend a PMP preparation seminar that is offered by either your local PMI chapter or by one of the many professional or for-profit, shall we say, training organizations out there. There are also quite a few excellent online training courses and self-study books that you can use. But this podcast, however, is definitely not the way to go. It's not going to help you and not going to give you any support in passing the PMP exam. Some of you have also been writing to me and asked whether or not listening to the Project Management Podcast is a qualifying activity to gain professional development units, that's PDUs. And if you are a PMP, you know that every 3 years you have to gain 60 PDUs in order to maintain your certification. And of course the best way to do that is to get trained. Well, I don't know. So what I did is I got in contact with the people who should know. I wrote to the PMI and they're working on it and they're going to let me know. So keep your ears open and I will be able to hopefully tell you in a few weeks whether or not listening to this show here will be helping you with gaining your PDUs. And while we are talking about the PMI, here is an announcement from them. And the announcement is the fact that the registration for the PMI Global Congress 2006 in Asia Pacific is now open. And they write that the Project Management Institute's global congresses are created with the goal of providing project managers and team members with the highest quality learning experience needed to stay ahead of the project management profession. And this Congress, the PMI Global Congress 2006 Asia Pacific, will take place from the 27th of February to the 1st March 2006 in Bangkok, Thailand. And of course, Bangkok, Thailand, that brings back that good old song from Murray Head.
Bangkok, oriental setting, and the city don't know what the city is getting. The creme de la creme of the chess world in a show with everything but Yul Brynner.
Alright, and before we move on to the news, here is a word from our sponsor. This episode of the Project Management Podcast is sponsored by Project Load. Project Load is a web-based project management and time tracking tool. Project Load lets teams maintain and forecast their own tasks, helps project managers track their projects, gives PMOs one place to view all projects, and provides executives valuable insight into exactly where their organization is spending their time. You can find Project Load at projectload.com. I once again have several very interesting news items for you here this week. The first one is from November 8th. It comes to us from Sweden and it's titled "The Swedish Railway Administration, Bankverket, selects IFS applications." They write, Bankverket Industrial Division, which supplies railway systems and related services in Sweden and other parts of Europe, will implement the IFS applications. The business software will enable Bankverket Industrial Division to streamline management of a range of internal and external processes. I am now not mentioning this because I like this IFS application, I don't even know it, but I'm mainly mentioning this because of what they say why they are implementing this particular application or a particular application. They say, since 2001, the market we operate in has been fully open to competition, so efficiency is crucial to the development and survival of our operations. And that's Ingemar Freidlitz who said that. He is a project manager at the Bankverket Industrial Division. He says the implementation of IFS applications is part of a major change program. The solution will give us the tools we need to streamline our processes. For example, it will be easier to plan and control our complex entrepreneurial projects. And he continues, our core business consists of complex entrepreneurial projects, but we also weld rails and manufacture signaling equipment and technical cabin in a traditional industrial environment. To me, this means that the Swedish Railway Administration realizes the important part that project management plays in an ever-changing and extremely competitive marketplace. They are embracing project management and, pardon the pun, are moving full steam ahead with it. Our next news item is along the same lines as the one that you have just heard. It is from Thursday, November the 10th, and it comes to us from Malta, which is an island just south of Sicily in the Mediterranean. It is titled Time and Project Management Course for Malta Post Staff. And you can read that the Human Resources Department of the Malta Post recently organized a short training course in time and project management for its senior staff. And the project management module provided the participants with the awareness of appropriate tools and techniques for planning, organizing, scheduling, and controlling of projects. And of course also the critical people management skills for achieving a project result. And they write here that a total of 32 line, middle, and senior management staff attended this training course, which was held at the Malta Post Training Center. Okay, big deal, you might say. So 32 people from Malta went to a project management seminar. Well, think again. These were not 32 project managers. These were 32 line, middle, and senior managers. And if you go back in about 2 weeks ago, in my show then, I had an announcement or a news item from Russ Archibald. He was at the seminar that they had in Moscow, and he had predictions for the year 2010. And what he said then is that project management will merge into the general management practice, and project management will become a required competency for executives. And this is exactly what's happening or what's starting to show here in this news item. Executives, managers, taking project management seriously and actually getting trained on it. Our next item is a survey that has just recently been released. This is from the November 9th, 2005, and it's titled NACIO Releases Findings from State IT Project Management Survey. And NACIO is the National Association of State Chief Information Officers. I assume by national they mean USA national, of course. And this survey is the result of 34 state project management offices that had participated in this self-assessment, which happened between August and September of 2005. And throughout the report, as you can read, you will find that there are several core themes which emerge as recommendations for success in initiatives, in IT initiatives on a state level. And they are that there is a value in adopting an enterprise approach towards IT investments. So take a look at your whole enterprise when you do IT investments. They also say that given the complexity of implementing IT projects, both within and across state agencies, clarifying the governance structure during the initiation phase of the project is essential. So make sure you know who's in charge of what. They also talk about the organizational change management, and they say that it must be viewed as an integral component of project management. When you finish your project and you release your project into the wild, you will change the organizational structure of your company, and you have to put in organizational change management. That has to be part of your project. And finally, they say that actively supporting career advancement for project managers within the state through project management training, certification projects, certification programs, etc., enhances the continuous improvement of IT projects within the state. Good to hear. You can go to my blog, pmpodcast.blogspot.com, and I have a link up there to this particular survey. The next item comes to us from the Kuwait News Agency from the 11th of November 2005. And it is titled AADO Convenes and Discusses IT Project Management. The AADO is the Arab Administrative Development Organization, and on the 20th of November they are going to be hosting a seminar on management and approaches to managing information technology projects in Cairo, and they are expecting people from 15 Arab states to be there. The 4-day seminar will be addressing, amongst other items of course, the importance of compilation of guidebooks on specifications and requirements on quality assessment in IT projects. Rather interesting title that is piquing my interest here. So if you are in Cairo, why not check this out? Our final news item today fits right into the topic of today's show. It is from the 4th of November 2004, and it is titled Project Management Methodology Soon to be Released. They write, Method 123 today announced that they intend to release their entire project management methodology within the next 12 weeks. The methodology will be the first of its kind, as it will include more than 1,000 pages of content describing how to complete every phase, activity and task within the project lifecycle. They continue, this will be a first for the web, and that's Jason Westland. He is the CEO and founder of Method 123. He says that project managers, consultants, trainers and students, that they should be able to download a complete project management methodology for use within their project environment. It, so he claims, should help them deliver projects more successfully but it would also help them to increase their project management knowledge and therefore give them the confidence to manage larger and more complex projects. Yes, definitely good thing to do. However, I agree with the statement that this will be a first for the web, because as you will see as we move through these various shows that I will be devoting to project management methodologies, the 10-step project management methodology has been around for much, much longer, and it has been available for free all this time. And that's the news for this week. Again, if you want to read any of these news items in detail, simply go to pmpodcast.blogspot.com, where you will find links to the items that I have just mentioned here. Next on the agenda today is a segment on workflow. 2 weeks ago, Harry Fisher, a listener like you, he wrote to me about an article which was accepted by the ASQ's Quality Program magazine. He asked me if I would be interested in including a summary of his article in the show. Of course, I said yes. And so here is our guest speaker for today, Harry Fisher, for you.
Hello there. Do you have workflow problems where you work? My name's Harry Fisher. Been in consulting for, about 20 years. I've been working with software development, project management, and now quality assurance. I work in Philadelphia, and my job is all about delivering good quality websites, usually to pharmaceutical firms. We had a problem recently with workflow, and just for those who may not be familiar with workflow, it's like all the steps you need to go through from the beginning to the end of a project. Right now, project requirements are coming in, but they're getting done in a real stressful way. We found a web-based way to get this work done better. We did some soul searching and realized that there were, some symptoms of a problem. We weren't quite sure what the problem was, and we found that requirements were coming in verbally. In some cases, the customer would explain to the account manager, this is what we really need. And that those requirements somehow were either misunderstood, might have been incomplete, or actually, until they were written down, they could change at the whim of the client. Some of the requirements came in from email. Now, everybody has email these days and realize files can be attached to them. But we also found that some of these emails were getting deleted when their email was filled up, or they were lost, or they weren't available to everyone on the project. We even tried using the local area network, or LAN, to store these files, but we realized that we can only get to the files during the day. Our firm was recently acquired by a company based in Chicago, and now, instead of being based in Philadelphia only, we have individuals in 6 other offices throughout the United States. So we're nationwide. So in addition to being in a fast-paced environment, we realized that we have resources in other offices that would perhaps have some downtime and could help us out. We involved the project managers, and they're focusing on what to do, when to do it, who can help, and the status of our task. But we found out that the paper-based tracking systems would get lost, they weren't up to date, and they really didn't give a complete picture. But we also learned that we can't put out fires all the time to provide quality solutions. There had to be a better way, and we think the workflow was the problem we needed to solve. We found a web-based tool called QuickBase that enables everyone, anywhere, to receive work requests, to update the status of those tasks, and to communicate if there's additional information needed. We set up the tool and understood that requirements could be collected electronically. Account managers would key in the information, what's needed, and when it was due. Project managers would decide who would do it, the resources that were available, when it would be scheduled, and then the production would receive an email triggering a start of work. Quality would receive an email when production was complete and said, hey, we need for you to take a look and make sure everything looks all right. And the status was so easily found. And the clients are happier now because they see their projects done on time and they fulfill the requirements. And there's less stress for everyone. It was actually very easy to get started. It's based on a monthly fee on the number of users. And what's nice about it is this particular tool is easily scalable to increase the number of users as you need them. The senior management commitment was extremely important. Despite all of our great ideas and suggestions on how to improve the process, senior management needed to step in and say, we will use this tool and you will do what's necessary to finish your tasks on time. So we had a consistent way of doing things. We set up a workflow application, a form with fields to fill out, and there were reports to help individuals and teams to track what everyone is doing. And we were able to have automatic emails notify people when they could start their work. This was a very nice feature. And we had the ability to update the app. I need to get going now, but just to summarize what I was saying, if you want to get more done, use people from any office, satisfy clients better, and make money by getting work done right the first time, you might want to set up a workflow tool and see how it is accepted in your office. We find that having a dashboard that shows you very simply what needs to be done and it's sorted by when it needs to be done is a great way to manage the work that needs to get done. And we find that having the ability to include people from other offices or even to work from home when your kid's sick is a nice feature. And we seem to have accepted it as the way we do things here, and it's just part of life here at work. Talk to you later. Bye.
And that was Harry Fisher talking to us about his experience in workflow. Harry is a PMP, a Certified Quality Manager, a Certified Software Quality Engineer. He is also a senior member of the American Society for Quality, ASQ. He is an adjunct professor who is teaching software quality assurance classes to graduate students, and he is also the author of VisualBasic.net, a computer programming book. And you can find the link to his book on my blog. That is quite a substantial biography here, Harry. Thank you very much, Harry, for sharing your experience with us. And of course, I encourage each and every one of you out there to do the same. Share your experiences with us, send me your audio file, and I will be more than happy to include it in the show if I think that it is of value for all our listeners. And now we are moving on to the main portion of the show, Project Management Methodologies. If you have listened to last week's show, I promised that I would be reviewing the Prince methodology today. But when I started doing that, I realized, I can't just jump into a single project management methodology. I first have to build the foundation here. We have to be looking at project management methodologies in general. Lay the groundwork before you build the walls here. So let us therefore first start with the definition. Hey, what is a project management methodology?
The Project Management Podcast's definitions.
If you ask what is a project management methodology and you ask 20 people, you will get 20 different answers. So here's what I have collected for you. In the PMBOK, the 3rd edition, 2004, they say that a project management methodology is a system of practices, techniques, procedures, and rules used by those who work in a discipline. Then we have Jason Sharwat. He wrote a book called Project Management Methodologies, Selecting, Implementing and Supporting Methodologies and Processes for Projects. And he defines a methodology as a set of guidelines or principles that can be tailored and applied to a specific situation. In a project environment, these guidelines might be a list of things to do. A methodology could also be a specific approach, templates, forms, and even checklists used over the project lifecycle. Then I also went and checked out what Prince 2 says about project methodologies, and it says that it's not called a methodology, it's called a method. I couldn't really find a clearly stated definition what a project method is according to Prince, but they say that a good project management method will guide the project through a controlled, well-managed, visible set of activities to achieve the desired result. In one sentence, my own definition of project methodology, or project management methodology rather, is as follows. A project management methodology is a set of repeatable processes that support the project manager with documented methods, tools, techniques, templates, and best practices to manage her project. On the whole, you won't go wrong if you live by any of these 4 definitions. I really think that all 4 of them are trying to convey the same idea but are using slightly different words, or they focus on a slightly different portion of the methodology, more or less. To me, the central words in all of these definitions are the words repeatable and documented. Because you want to be able to do a similar project or also a completely different project the same way again and again. And of course, the only way to do this, to do a repeatable process, is by writing the processes down and making a methodology out of that. And then follow the steps that you have documented. And that's my definition of project management methodologies. Alright, so much for the definition what a project management methodology is. So, what is it not? Well, it's not templates. By implementing just templates in your environment, you are not implementing a methodology. So 1 template doesn't make a methodology. 100 templates don't make a methodology. Templates are only used to document the results that you get when you are following the processes of the methodology. Granted, a template, shall we say a checklist, that will guide the project manager through the processes. But in the end, the executed processes is at the heart of the methodology, not the checklist and not the template at all. In order to document the results of the analysis, you have to perform the analysis. In order to have a budget, you have to go through the budgeting process, etc. And the templates that you fill in only help you to execute these processes. So that means when you are inviting your project managers in your company to a training, don't simply invite them to a training of the templates. Invite them to a training of the processes in which we will also look at the templates. And a project management methodology is, of course, also no guarantee for success. You can follow a project management methodology to its absolute detail and still deliver the absolutely wrong project to your customer. It's just like anything else. It's like being a PMP. A PMP means that you have a certification. It doesn't mean you are a good project manager. And following a methodology doesn't give you the guarantee that you will succeed. Let's take a look a little bit about the background of project management methodologies. The project management has grown from the early initiatives. People usually point to the US defense and aerospace sectors in the late 1950s and 1960s. And the US Department of Defense and also the NASA, they achieved early project management success mainly because they had internal policies, they had procedures and best practices. They used Gantt charts, they had scheduling techniques, they had organizational planning. That's how they managed these projects. Then it began that the project management societies started to provide communication on project management through journals, conferences, and seminars. In the mid-1980s then, the Project Management Institute out of the United States, and later also the Association for Project Management, the APM in the UK, they embarked on programs to test and certify project management professionalism. And then this marks the birth of certain guidelines and bodies of knowledge, because you can only test knowledge if you compile the knowledge. And because of that, we have the PMBOK and also the APM-BOK. And these addressed some methodology, but these PMBOKs or APM-BOKs, they addressed the methodology, but they did not address every industry and type of methodology to be used right there. So, of course, other organizations, they developed their own versions of project management methodologies. In the early days of project management, like then, it was quite common that the common practice was that project staff and project managers, they would come up with their own methods moving through the life cycle of their projects. This was, of course, when the project management was driven by events that happened on the project while on the job. So there was quite a lot of reactive project management here. This was, of course, fine for certain projects, but it also led to the failure and delay of many other projects because of problems that started to show. There were poor, inconsistent project designs because you didn't plan in the very beginning. There was poor project analysis because you just started working on things before you analyzed it properly. And, of course, ineffective project communications because you didn't take everybody into account. You didn't think, who do I have to contact? Who do I have to keep informed? All right. So, over time, these very diversified methodologies, they began to get collected and more integrated into larger and robuster bodies of knowledge. And please don't think that these methodologies that we know today, that they stand alone, because over time, a lot of components grew around project management methodologies. You have the PMOs. The PMO will build the infrastructure for project management in a company. You have templates. They will deliver the documentation method that you need. You have computer-based tools that help us all with scheduling and many other techniques like change control systems, interview techniques, etc. They help us execute the actual project. So, project management methodologies don't stand alone. They have a lot around them. Okay, so much about the background of project management methodologies and how they came to be. Next, let's take a look at why you should actually use a project management method or methodology, depending on how you call it. And I am probably preaching to the choir here, so you should all know that project management methodologies, they improve communication with interested parties, meaning that if you and I work along the lines of the same methodology, we have the same language, the same vocabulary, this will lead to products that are being delivered with what the customer actually wants, because the customer can express himself or herself in the words of the project management people. It will improve coordination of resources and activities because of the tools that are given to you as a project manager. It will allow you to better estimate duration and cost of the project, which means your project will be on time and within budget. It provides better metrics that can be measured across projects because you have a repeatable process and you can measure these process steps. It will allow you for better planning of resources, activities, and also scheduling. Of course, it will give you improved progress control. You know exactly where the project is if you compare it to the original project plan. And of course, earned value pops into mind when we're talking about improved progress control. And last but not least, it will give you improved quality control. And remember, quality always means that we deliver a product that meets the requirements of the customer. Now let's look at generic versus specific project management methodologies. Let me explain. There are a few generic project management methodologies out there that give you more of a project management framework. Project management frameworks, they will tell you more along the lines of the what you need to do, but not really how you need to do it. The PMBOK, for instance, the PRINCE2 methodology, those are very high-level methodologies. They will tell you that, well, you have to do an analysis at the start of your project, but not how you have to do that. Then within the type of specific methodologies, those were the generic methodologies that I just mentioned, so the specific methodologies, that's those methodologies that, shall we say, that are more targeted? Maybe like Agile or the waterfall method that can be used in all kinds of industries. And naturally, the methodology that your own company uses as well. If you have a project management methodology in your company, this is most likely a very specific methodology targeted at your business. And most likely, it's called something like Merlin, just to make it sound important. Greek gods are also favorite names of those methodologies. Instead of saying generic and specific, you can also say that the first group, the generic ones, are project management methodologies, which define project management at a very high level. And the second group, the specific project those are the specific group, those are the project development methodologies. And they define the steps in your project. So the project management versus the project development. You could also say, if you take it to the next step, that the project management methodologies are here to manage the project more, shall we say, maybe from an administrative point of view, while the project development methodologies are here to manage the technology, what you're actually implementing. The first group, they really focus mainly on how to successfully deliver the project by means of specific project management tasks. And the latter group, they focus on successfully delivering the product, service or result. This means that the development methodology for building a house, a software application, or launching a communications satellite will differ greatly, but they could all be part of the same project management methodology. So you can take PRINCE2 as the general high-level project management methodology and then devise a project development methodology within the PRINCE2 framework to build a house, to build a software application, and to launch a communications satellite, if you'd like. Some folks also say that the SDLC, the software development lifecycle, is one of the more high-level project management methodologies. Personally, I place the SDLC more under the development methodologies, simply because of my personal experience in the past. As the name indicates, SDLC, in most cases, is used and focuses on software development. And in my experience, software is usually the, almost last thing that you do in a project. The project has a problem that it's trying to solve, and the solution may be to deliver software, but there is a whole lot more around it that you need to do. Imagine, let's stay in space. Imagine the Mars rover. The Mars rover has software included, but the SDLC itself would only focus on the software within the Mars rover. You really need a big honking project management methodology to build the Mars rover, and you can probably use SDLC to build the software that goes in it. Let's look at a few mistakes that can be made with project management methodologies. First, let's come back to Merlin, Pluto, or whatever your internal project management methodology is called, and use it with a grain of salt here. Remember that a project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. Your methodology, however, is a set of repeatable processes. So, the project is unique. The methodology, however, is repeatable. That means that you have to make the methodology just as unique as your project is. That's why I said use it with a grain of salt. Use your methodology with a grain of salt. You cannot just blindly follow your methodology. You always have to adapt your methodology to your project. Let's go back a couple of shows. I think it was 3 or 4 shows ago when I was talking about PMOs, and I told you about the fact that my company has a 500-page long methodology, and I decided that in our division it could only be a page long. Okay, that's what we did in order to adapt the methodology for our project. In other cases, you may even want to completely kick out your methodology and select a completely different one. I mean, nobody in their right mind probably would consider using the rational unified process to manage building an oil pipeline, I guess. So use the right project management methodology and adapt it to your specific needs. If you don't do that, you will most likely fail. Big mistake right there. The second mistake that many companies make with project management methodologies is that they are not supported after the implementation. Too many companies make the mistake, they develop PM processes, they train the staff, and they release the project management methodology out into the wild, and that's it. They don't provide any ongoing support. There is no follow-up. Yeah, ours, for instance, our methodology, they actually have the feedback loop built in. So there is a particular template that you're asked to fill in at the end of a project and return it to the PMO so that the PMO can actually update the methodology. Unfortunately, I believe the methodology has not been updated in 3 years. So good intentions there, but it is not followed through. Also, you forget, or companies sometimes forget, that there are new employees coming in. You have to train people in the project management methodologies. So a company that uses a methodology really needs a PMO, a project management office, that takes care of the methodology, receives the feedback that project managers and users in the field return to the PMO, and then updates the methodology accordingly. And by PMO, I really don't mean a humongously huge department. A PMO can be one person who's just dedicated to the methodology within the company, training, updating it, making sure that it follows the changes of the company. Because remember, with the project management methodology, you are implementing or you are running projects. Projects are how you change your business. Therefore, your methodology changes your business. And if your business is changed, you may need to look at your methodology again and change the methodology to be good and usable for your new business and how it's run. All right. And that's about all that I have to say today about these project management methodologies. Let me give you a quick outlook here into the future. We will be looking at the following methodologies. We'll be looking at PRINCE2. We, of course, are going to be looking at the PMI's PMBOK. We'll be looking at the RUP, the Rational Unified Process. I'm going to look at the waterfall methodology. We'll look at Agile. And we will, of course, also look at the freely available methodologies, 10-step. And as if you have listened to the news today, you will have heard that Method 123 is going to release a significantly increased methodology. They already have a methodology out there, but it consists only of a few templates. Of course, I'm not going to do this all in a row. I'm not going to do 7 or 8 project management methodology podcasts in a row. No. My intent is to take my time and to again and again come back to these methodologies and discuss them for you here. My intent is also to have interviews with people who are using these methodologies. So if you have Skype, for instance, Skype is an internet telephony software. So if you are using Skype and you would be interested in chatting with me about these methodologies, if you're using them, pros, cons, where does it work, where does it not work, what are your experiences with it, then please get in touch with me and we can do a Skype interview, and we will include the interview here on the podcast as I am reviewing these individual methodologies. And lastly today, here is another review in the section that I call the good, the bad, and the ugly. A few weeks ago, the listener David Garand from Canberra in Australia wrote to me, and he said, "I very much enjoyed your review of project management podcasts. One that you may want to look at is The Vision Thing. It did a most interesting podcast on project management." And yes, I did, David. I listened to this particular show, to this particular episode, and here is my review of The Vision Thing. The Vision Thing is a blog by Ethan Johnson, and The Sound of Vision is the accompanying podcast. In his mission statement, he writes, "The purpose of this website and associated weblog is to provide resources pertaining to business process management and flowcharting, participate in the global dialogue in all matters related to business, process, and management, and thirdly, educate, inform, entertain, engage, and empower." And of course, his podcasts, therefore, are focusing on business-related topics. He has shows on business process management, transparency. I've seen 2 on business women. There is one on the entrepreneurial spirit, one on copyright and intellectual property, and so on. My review today here is about the Sound of Vision podcast, which was released on February 4th, 2005. The show is an hour and 3 minutes long, and it features 4 main segments. And when I first started playing his show, I thought that I was listening to the wrong file, because his opening music is the same jingle that I'm using for my show here as well. Just very curiously, he's using the same music there. So I was actually thinking I was listening to one of my own shows first. I did a quick double take there. One thing I have to get off my chest right away. It's the sound quality of The Vision Thing. It's absolutely awful. At the end of listening to his podcast, I had a headache. And I'm not kidding you, I actually had to take 2 aspirin. My goal with the Project Management Podcast is not only to bring interesting and entertaining project management information to you, my listeners, but also I want to do the best possible sound quality that an amateur with a simple $30 microphone can achieve. And this particular show here of the Vision thing is, from a sound perspective, just plain ugly. The content, however, was enjoyable. Ethan starts out with a monologue in which he talks about the importance of assumptions. He says that the objectives may be right, but your project assumptions make it impossible to reach. To make his point, he tells the story of a band wanting to record a 5-minute song. In his experience, recording a 5-minute song takes at least 4 to 6 hours. So, while the objective of recording a 5-minute song may be achievable, the assumption that it only takes 5 minutes to do the recording is completely wrong. So this particular factor, this assumption, makes the project fail. And on a little side note here, Ethan uses this particular example of recording a song because, if I understood this right, he had gone through sound school. So, therefore, the fact that he should know about good sound and try to make the sound better of his own show just makes the frustration of my headache even worse. The first guest on his show is Hal McComber, who talks about lean project management. And I have to admit, the more I hear of Hal, from Hal, the more I begin to like what he actually has to say. So I owe Hal an apology, even though he doesn't know. I had first heard Hal speak at the PM in Action seminar, which we had down here in Southern California, and he was giving a speech, a presentation on playing catch. And frankly, that presentation was just a waste of my time. So I was apprehensive whenever I heard his name since then. But Hal, in the meantime, has won me over. Therefore, my humble apologies to you, Hal, that I didn't think much of you at first, but don't forget, you only have one chance to make a first impression, but I'm giving you a second chance, believe it or not. We live and learn. Ethan's second guest on the show is Joanna Rothman, and with her he talks a lot about giving feedback, and at first you might think, hey, that has nothing to do with project management, but of course it has. Remember that the P in PM might just as well stand for people management. To me, the conversation with Joanna is valuable and a good addition to my soft skills. Finally, Ethan speaks with Clark Ching about agile software development. They don't get into very many agile details, but that is good because it makes this particular conversation a good overview for the uninitiated project manager who is looking for an introduction to agile. My verdict: this is a show with some good content. On the good, bad, and ugly scale, it hovers close to good, with an ugly undertone because of the awful sound quality. Take 2 aspirin and listen to this show in the morning. That's it for today. Thank you very much for listening. In my next show, we're going to be looking at how to set SMART goals. As always, you can find us on the web at pmpodcast.blogspot.com, or you can send your emails to pmpodcast@gmail.com. And when you write, please tell me where in the world you are writing from. And finally, we have this: a thought about real-life fast tracking. It takes one woman 9 months to have a baby. It cannot be done in 1 month by impregnating 9 women. With that, send an email to one of your project members today and tell them that you really liked what they did last week. Until next time.